Yeah, it'll be half and half with Dell starting, Tokarski second half. Yeah, that will happen. I'm sure it will happen. As we move to game 4, 5, and 6, we'll be thinking more of that preparation. Right now, even for the whole team right now, we don't want to be too critical. We want to see what we have. So it's not like we're targeting a whole lot right now until we get to game 3, 4, 5, 6 of the preseason.
What are your early impressions of Turka?
Lots of dynamic skill attributes. He's got some, explosiveness, skating, shooting, agility. So, and he's engages in everything. He works hard in all situations. Practice, his preparation is equally intense. He's a player that just, he has a great base of talent, and he approaches the game that way. So he pushes himself to become better each day too, and we've seen progress in him just in the practices.
Like any young player, is it just the details that he needs to clean up in order to really be an option for you, specifically early in the season?
Yeah, there's lots of details that he hasn't had to pay attention of. Quite honestly, it's good that he's played in a men's league, overseas. That's helped his and shortened his window, adapting to the NHL, whenever that is, and it's made it sooner than later. I think when you go through that, because for all of these guys, the highest end skill, they're not held accountable at the lower levels. They just get by on their skill, so they don't have to pay attention to any details, and that's a big part of the process once they, try to enter the league. But for him, he does have an awareness that, okay, I'm going to have to catch. There's a consciousness there of, okay, what do I have to adapt to? But the games like tonight are important for a guy like that. Yeah, I think it's going to be movement. I think these guys have to learn to play different positions. Again, in our business, crunch time, with the way injuries happen, the way things happen, the more experience you get at more positions, the better. And that's part of the process with him playing center. We know he can play wing, and we know he's good there and has real good potential there. We, especially now when he's taking so much in and learning and adapting, adjusting, that we threw that at him. Whether he does it in 3 weeks from now, we don't know, but getting him that experience we feel is valuable right now.
What interests you about seeing those three young guys as line mates as Turka?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to think we have three, very talented young players like that in our organization. And I say talented and skilled, not yet experienced. I mean, they're just going to gain experience every situation. So, a little bit, I guess, of, we had Yokoharu and Darlene together, and I was excited for that because they're going to have to learn. There's nobody that's going to bail them out. They're going to have to gain that experience on their own. And similar tonight with them, I think, there's certainly things they can do from a skill standpoint. I don't think anybody would be surprised if they scored. But there's a lot of details that Lance mentioned that I think they're going to pick up on just by playing together. Go ahead, Bill.
What stood out to you so far about Linus Weisbach, the first day of camp and not and so forth?
Yeah, he's got a lot. There's a lot to his game. He's skilled. He makes plays. He complements other talented players. Lots of times you have players come in and they've been skilled enough that they didn't need other players at the other, so they didn't really have to use players at the other level. He obviously played with Cole Caulfield last year. He used him quite a bit. So he comes in probably more advanced than a typical player coming in, where he's very aware of how to use other players on the ice. maybe release a puck and use his quickness to get back open, give and go. So he's been impressive. Like to say I know he's well coached, but that's for somebody else.
Don, it's a big picture question. Sorry, but Kyle Poso was very diplomatic. He didn't name names or reference specifics, but he said there were a lot of things that needed to be cleaned up here in this organization. And so, and we've seen this from over the years. But aside from fundamentals and the X's and O's that you need to focus on, how much have you devoted towards addressing or maybe reestablishing a culture that hasn't been real, that has been unsettled here? As you
Yeah, I much like everything else, the past is the past. So I don't approach anything like that, John, like we have to reestablish or we have to change. We have to change our culture. We are our culture right now. This group is our culture. Last year was, I think every year you've got to recreate a culture. Every year, whether you win a championship or not, it's a different culture and it's a different mindset and there's different frustrations. So, I mentioned at the outset with our entire group and staff at the meeting, we are the culture. We don't need to change anything. It's how are we going to, establish new? To me, it's new every year. So I believe we have the right personalities from old to young, along that spectrum of age in our organization and experience, and not only as players but management side. And I feel very comfortable that our culture is where it needs to be. It's a competitive group of people that are driven, and they know the only way to get what we want is to be better competitors than than who we're going against.
Culture is a vague word, and it could mean a lot of things, but did you have to emphasize placing your stamp of expectations, that the day-to-day expectations of what you expect from these players, in the early going?
Yeah, that's very good question, John. I mean, the expectations for us are compete, work, prepare, compete. I try to keep them as simple as they can. And then the performance, we help them evaluate it and lay out corrections, and they're expected to correct them. I mean, we have to be fast learners. And, if they're not working competitively to make those corrections, yeah, they're going to be in trouble with us. But, we have guys that embrace that. They love that. And that was a big part of even, working with Kevin in the off season, having those types of discussions of how, what is important, not how we're going to change things, not how we're going to do things differently, what is important to what we're doing. I don't like looking at it if we're changing it. We need to get to who we are. And I'm confident if we just stay focused on that, don't bring anything, oh my God, we got to change that or change that. Just be who we are. And again, that starts with being very competitive.
With the new staff, the coaching staff, how's the bench now? How's the coaching assignment?
Yeah, Matty Ellis love what he's done with the forwards. Obviously, he's got a great connection with our young guys being in the development side. Marty has run the bench with the defensemen in Anaheim the last 3 seasons, I believe. So, he'll oversee that. Ellie will be on the bench. Jason Christie, was a big part of things for me because of all his years of head coaching experience. I mean, the crisis management that you have at the ECHL level and being a head coach is amazing. You're dealing with not only agents and players, the entire staff, training, medical, all that stuff, immigration. You do everything. So for Jason, he's like having another head coach right there every time that can help manage things. So he's got more of the macro, and then I would say Matt Ellis has a focus with the forward group and Marty with the defensive group.
So what you were talking about with John is what we saw yesterday, and I bring it up because I haven't seen much of this over the years. You had a really sloppy drill going on. You stopped it. And you talked to the guys right away. Is that part of what you're talking about? And did they respond to what you were telling them after you talked to them?
It is, yeah. It's sloppy is going to happen at times. Sometimes when it happens in a game, you still got to find a way to win. But in that situation, we could correct it right there. And so let's correct it right there. And, you have that opportunity to practice. Unfortunately, you don't have that opportunity in a game. You got to try to get the momentum back any way possible. But yes, that would be an example, Paul. And again, I think we have the guys that culturally they have high expectations of themselves, so they want that information, and they were able to correct it. I felt appropriately. It's early in the season, so you're going to have it's hard as a coach because you see details that as coaching staff that maybe they don't yet because they're working to get themselves in condition better, but they're going to pick up more and more as they go and get in better shape and more games under their belt, and that process is something there's push, but there's also patience involved.
Just to clarify, is Jason going to be the eye in the sky? Is he going to be on the bench?
He'll be a little of both. Yeah, Lance, a little of both.
Don, you mentioned needing to be creative with your centerman this year. With Ruotsalainen back in the middle, what are you seeing early, through what we've had so far, and what do you expect and hope to see from him tonight?
Yeah, he's been great early on. He was great in the rookie camp, took charge. He's been great here positionally. That is definitely a position that we're going to have players that are going to grow into it. Zemgus hasn't played it in a while. Dylan was shifted around. It's going to take him some time in that position. We know that. But I think Arttu has a really good feel for it already. I mean, he's got a lot of detail in that position, a lot of patience when needed to be, a lot of assertiveness when it is. His reads are very good in that position. So I've been happy with him. But that's what these games are about. They're the preseason games. Not only get in shape, but help give us, as it moves along, a more accurate evaluation of those things. I don't think we can evaluate accurately that stuff in game 1, 2, or 3 because they're still getting in game shape. But later on, we'll be focused more on that.
He was a center for so long in today. Is the game different over there for what a center is supposed to do compared to what?
Yeah, I think the rink is different. The game itself, maybe from a systematic standpoint, a man-on-man coverage or something like that would be different, but not much beyond that. I think it's you're still that guy that's supporting the D and underneath your wingers supporting them. So it's really lots of more similarities than not.
Sean Malone, I realize he's not playing tonight, but you go way back with him. In coming back to Buffalo, what kind of opportunity do you think he sees at this stage of his career?
Well, it's fun to see him now. What is he? 26 years old now. He's a 95 born. So to see him as an older individual player, I had him when he was 17, U18 team, and he was great for us then. And haven't been with him obviously since. So to see the growth and maturity in him, the confidence in him is great. I've known him since then as a very talented guy, and he remains that. So I'm glad he's here, and he's done a real nice job so far.
Don, there are a lot of young players that are going to be imperative to having success this season. How are you going to push them along to learn faster in the preseason to take on bigger roles than maybe they would in another organization?
That process, a big part of that process, I'd say, obviously the practice is a big part. Getting them into those games, the 3 young kids playing on a line together, there's nobody to bail them out for their mistakes tonight. So we need to take that video and, show them whatever we see that they can make improvements on. I'd rather have them exposed right now so we know exactly what they need to work on than having somebody cover up for them, and that's maybe they need to work on that, maybe they don't. So to speed the process, a lot of video and putting them in situations. And now is a really good time because it is the preseason. We're not counting points yet.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Okay, see you guys.